Before we get into the video, I'd just like to say this is sponsored by Skillshare. The ad will be at the end. Enjoy!
I feel like such a slob. I've been finding it really hard to motivate myself to film videos. I think it was much easier when I was living on my own there for a month in my old flat because I wasn't exercising my social muscles. Talking to a camera was kind of doing that for me. So I was more inclined to want to film because it felt like I was talking to a friend. And now I've put myself in a position where I can talk to people all the time. So I'm less inclined to make videos. Sometimes it's hard being a YouTuber, you guys. I'm not complaining, obviously, I'm just being fucking dramatic. It's a really cold day and I just want to literally lie in bed all day and make a hot chocolate. Life is filled with endless suffering sometimes and you have to do stuff that you don't want to. Oh! Hello? Oh, be there in a sec. Thanks. Cherry got her Crocs. Come on in! So nice. Oh, whoa! Oh wow! I'm gonna make a hot chocolate. Do you want one? Pop a hot chocolate. Pop a chocolate milk. Okay. Woo! Yeah! Pop the cheeky choky milk because I pushed my nan down the stairs. Push my nan down the stairs. Oh, shut up. I feel like I'm gonna need to shit now in the next 2 minutes. But look what Cherry found in her room. I don't know if I said this in the last video, but I'm really loving the long hippie skirt moment, like from the last song sort of buzz. And Cherry was gonna give this away. On with the video. So this is another toxic advice video because I feel like sometimes I try to give advice that I would like to think that I give other people and stuff that I know is morally correct but not actually realistic in terms of what I genuinely implement into my day-to-day life or advice that I give myself. So this is going to be my raw, honest, authentic advice that I actually do. I've burnt my tongue. My day is fucking ruined now. I'm bad at falling for people too quickly. Help! I had this issue as well. It's usually perpetuated by being in isolation, being alone. You start to romanticize people a lot and kind of fantasize about this perfect image in your head of what these people are. Because usually if you're falling for someone too quickly, you haven't given an extensive period to get to know the person as much as you should to deserve a falling for. It's definitely just because you're romanticizing, fantasizing and curating a perfect person in your head, which is what they actually aren't. So it's completely the opposite of reality of what the person is like. But the best way to avoid it is to actually rationalize it in your head. Instill the kind of mantra in your mind that you actually don't know the person well enough to be able to fall for them, and there's so much more to uncover. And I think one of the beauties in life is finding out so much about a person. I personally would fall in love now with people's flaws or maybe their vulnerabilities, and not necessarily for the qualities that I deem respectable or stuff that I'd want to attribute or gain from in my life. I find more beauty in rawness and when people are actually authentically themselves, because when you first start to get to know someone, they're on their best behavior, they're trying to not create a facade more, but like kind of embellish themselves in a way that seems more attractive and lovable. So I find it much more intriguing, interesting, where you find so much about a person, you know what their flaws are and their downfalls. It's just much more rewarding. I don't know. Remind yourself that one of the beauties in life is finding out the bad sides of people and maybe their shadow self, and not necessarily the stuff that you fantasize about in your head and then the type of person that you want them to be. Another question in this as well was, I think my standards are too high. Is that a good or bad thing? And I used to think that was a good thing. I was like, yeah, queen. Now there's a huge difference in wanting someone to treat you correctly and then having high standards in terms of like what kind of things you look for in a person. And I think I was guilty of that myself, where I talked about it in my Paint With Me video where I had a list of qualities that I wanted in a person, but it's actually not that crucial for me, I don't think, anymore in a partner, because I am so comfortable within myself and I'm not necessarily looking for a relationship at the moment. I'm like avoiding trying to get romantically involved with anyone. I find that the more and more time I spend on my own and not thinking about, oh, I have to make myself look attractive for this person, I'm trying to impress this person, the more I realize I actually don't care. I just love people in general, and I love all sorts of different types of people. All my friends are quite different in terms of their personality, and I love them all individually as people, and it's not necessarily because of the positives. It's kind of an inexplicable bond that you create with another human. You can't actually vocalize or put into words. I'm going on a whole philosophical tangent here. Yeah, I just think it's important to give it time. That is the most important thing I think in relationships. You get addicted to the oxytocin release in your brain, where it's actually just infatuation and not necessarily true love. True love is feeling comfortable with another person and having total security. whereas infatuation is like the excitement feeling. There's also nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with infatuation. I love it, to be honest. That's why sometimes I think I put a lot of energy into crushing on fictional characters from movies. I'm not putting people in my life onto pedestals like people that I'm romantically interested in, because it's maybe a coping mechanism so I don't have to deal with the prospects of rejection. Because I feel like I deal a lot with rejection sensitivity dysphoria, where I think that inevitably people are going to find out the real me and be repulsed and leave me. That's only small snippets of my life where I feel like that, and it's usually when I'm not in contact with any other human beings. The more and more time you exercise your social muscles, you realize that everyone is flawed and no one is thinking about you enough to actually reject you or hate you in any way, because everyone's too involved with their own lives and their own stories. Everyone is the protagonist in their own movies. And where was I going with this? So to answer your question, if you're falling too quickly, notice when you're doing that to someone, if you're putting someone on a pedestal, maybe it's like a coping mechanism. I'd need to know the specific situation in which you're falling for them. Is it because the person liked you back and then you're jumping at the opportunity because you're feeling validated by someone? You try to convince yourself that maybe I love them too, because you just crave that validation from someone else, or crave being loved or wanted from another human being, or the validation that you're not giving yourself, you're getting it from someone else. So you're convincing yourself that you're also in love with them so you can continue getting it. It could be that. It could be either a coping mechanism where you are aware that inevitably the person will reject you, or there's no chance of you ever being together, so that you're jumping at the opportunity to fantasize about someone else so that you don't have to deal with your reality. Or that it just could be that you're feeling a lot of loneliness and you're not necessarily putting the time in to spend on your own, or you're afraid of being on your own or being in your own company, which is the most valuable experience that you can have as a human, is spend time on your own without any distractions. And I found that the month, even though it was a short period of time, it relatively short in comparison to what other people's lives are like, especially during lockdown, but the month I spent on my own, not exercising any social muscles, not seeing anyone, just totally being in complete solitude, surprisingly enough, didn't have a breakdown. I didn't have any of my usual self-destructive behaviors. And now that I'm completely content and at peace, because I've put in the effort to live with other people, and I've, implemented all of these things so I don't have to spiral into the state of like deep depressive loneliness, and I'm not trying to validate myself from other people, was all because I spent that time on my own, even though it was short-lived. But I'm obviously a very introspective person where I have to overthink everything and psychoanalyze myself. So I think that's what I learned a lot from being on my own, is that I actually don't need anything from anyone ever. And it makes you feel so empowered and strong. And yeah, I feel like I've leveled up in life. But sometimes I get these thoughts. I don't know no, it's not an intrusive thought, it wouldn't be. No, it's just like probably a pretty normal. So basically I'm getting sufficient sleep. I'm educating myself a lot. I'm reading before bed and in the morning, which I don't usually do. Like, it's like a healthy habit that I have. And my body is kind of reacting in a way where some part of my brain is telling the other part that I'm boring now, and like I'm not interested, or not interesting, even though I'm learning so much that I have a lot to give to other people. And I think it's so valuable if you're able to be in social situations and teach someone else something, and also learn something from them, and want to find out something from them, instead of just like having frivolous conversation, bitching about people, or like doing any of these other things. But some part of my brain is like, not enough chaos, Keelin. But I'm putting a lot of my energy into just making myself a better person. Like, yeah, so I'm just so much better than everyone else. I just literally saw Sears just make that joke yesterday, so I'm just appropriating it. I don't have a sense of self at all. I just grab personality traits from my sisters. Like, this is why reading is good for me, because if I'm spending a lot of time on my own and not paying attention to anyone else, I find I'm more and more true to myself, because I'm not so heavily influenced by everyone else. And I like to think of myself as, oh, I'm not a sheep. I'm a free thinker. As much as I like to think that about myself, I'm absolutely, literally not. No evidence. How am I trying to word this? There's nothing in my life that's evident enough to prove that I'm my own person. But I feel like every human is like that. They're influenced in some sort of way, and their surroundings, the people around them. But me, I'm just like I might not be noticeable to other people, or maybe I'm being too hard on myself. I do find myself a lot like I'm literally dyeing my hair red next week, because I'm just like, that looks good in Sears shop. I might do that myself. I mean, it is my sisters. I basically raised them, so I'm allowed. I've earned it. And it could be also just because I miss them, so I'm trying to, instead of being with them, I'm trying to become them. And I talked about this in a podcast before, not one of my own, but in an interview, where I found that after breakups, not even during the relationship, because I think it's really important for a healthy relationship to find your own individualism and just continue to work on yourself rather than being so dependent on the other person, because you'll find that the more time you even spend apart, as contradictory as it sounds, the stronger the relationship will be, because you'll find you'll be able to be in a healthy, non-dependent relationship. That's besides the point. What was I saying? Yeah, but I found that after relationships, because if I ever felt any sort of hurt or rejection or maybe missing them or nostalgic, I would try to emulate behaviors from the person. This is after breaking up with them, or like this is people I've been seeing as well, literally for a short period of time. People that I literally barely know, like maybe had sex with them once. I would try to emulate parts of their personality or maybe their interests and get interested in that type of person. But I think it's because I do have an obsession with finding out loads of things about a certain person. I'm like, I want to, not even for my own personal gain, I find it really interesting to learn about people, what past experiences they had that made them the person that they are today, what kind of interests do they have, where did that derive from, what do they dream about at night, you know? I just find that so interesting. I don't know, maybe I should have studied psychology in school. Fuck. Where's he going with this? Yeah, so after breakups, I found that I was like emulating other people, their personalities or like their interests or whatever, just to prove to myself that, again, another conditioning myself into creating a core belief that I don't need anyone else. And it's so empowering. It worked as well. I've never heard this advice from anyone ever, but if you're trying to get over someone, just become them. Think like that person thinks, and then you can understand more. It works the same if you never got any closure from someone, if you were ghosted. Try to put yourself in that person's shoes. And I teach that a lot in Jungian shadow work, is to pick a person that you don't like, or maybe you have a strong negative emotional reaction to when you think about them. Write down all their negative attributes and then replace their name with yours, and try to think about it from their perspective and put yourself in their shoes. And then you find that you understand the person more and you look at the world with less judgment. I'm on a roll with this video. I'm so glad I did this. It's the non-self-destructive behaviors. It's actually working out brilliant, to be honest. Yeah, geez, I'm really benefiting a lot from like not partying. Someone said how to stop romanticizing a boy who hand embroiders on his clothes asking for a friend. Romanticize away. Is he of age? How to figure out what you want to do in life. Honest opinion, no one knows what the fuck they're doing. Literally no one knows. I dropped out of music college 2 years ago. Never touched music ever again. Did the odd karaoke night, but I'd be like, give me a fucking guitar now, I want to show off. I was literally the gaslighting fuckboy where I was like, you want to hear me sing some Mac DeMarco? Or what's your buzz? So I'd be doing that. And I've only made a song, my friend made a song and I just did the vocals over it. But my friend went last week. So that's like 2 years later. I literally have no idea what direction I'm taking in life, but I'm lucky that I have a career where I have a lot of leisure time. Karl Marx would be so proud. I have a lot of leisure time where I can actually work on things that give me some sort of stimulation. But to answer your question, I have no idea what I'm doing. I literally don't know what I'm doing in life, and I'm pretty sure no one does either. In your early 20s or 18 or 19, you don't need to know. It literally doesn't matter. As long as you're making money and you're giving yourself enough time to have some sort of introspective revelations by just going about your everyday life, and don't let other people's opinions of you hold you back at all. Because sometimes I would be afraid of people telling me to stay in my lane, or like, you're a YouTuber, you can't do that, or you do this thing, you're not allowed to do that. It's like an insecurity projection of other people where they don't feel like it's a human right to be able to go after the things they want if they've thought of it later than the other person, if you know what I mean. But if you let those people get in your way, you're letting them win. And fuck them, to be honest. Like, literally, don't mind them people. Just do whatever the fuck you want. Yeah, I laughed so much at this question. Someone said, how to still smell good without showering? My personal hygiene was bad. Now that I have an ensuite, I realise how little I showered when I didn't have an ensuite. Really bad. And especially when I used to work fake tan, I'd shower less, I found, because I wanted the tan to last longer. But tan smells so bad. I apologise in advance if anyone I've ever had sex with watching these videos, if I've ever smelled, it's literally because I wasn't showering. Showering's overrated though. Saving water. I've literally never been more clean in my whole life living in here. And like, I'm actually doing my skincare all the time. Like literally all the time. 2 masks a week. Yeah. Told you. Got our shit together. The odd time if I was like at parties and I hadn't showered, this was like last summer, but in fairness I was literally hungover constantly. I would like go to parties and get a cloth and like wash out my armpits. I haven't worn deodorant in 3 years either. So yeah, to answer your question, wash out your armpits when you can. I find that I smell nicer for a prolonged period of time when I get out of the shower. I use like a scented body lotion. I use my Function Beauty one, not spawn. Not spawn, guys. So if anyone's wondering what I smell like, I use lavender scented body wash, lavender scented body lotion, and then I use Zara Femme perfume. Scents don't really last that long on your skin, so I tend to, and I also use like an eco-friendly detergent which doesn't really give a strong scent off your clothes. So I spray my clothes with perfume because perfume doesn't last on skin. And then I always use like a scented hair oil in my hair. You know, when you want to walk past people and for them to go, oh, smells like my ex, or like have some sort of emotive response from someone when you walk by them. That's the goal. Now I probably shower every 2 days, which is good for me. Like I think when I was living on my own there, I showered once a week. Girls, fuck it. Jeez, that's actually very bad. How to know yourself better and be happy with who you are. Practical solutions. Get off your phone. I know I'm mad for like the deactivating my Instagrams because I literally don't have the self-control to just delete the app or be on it on my laptop. So I find that deactivating my Instagram for just a few days, and that's the only real app that I'm on that I'm like addicted to. I think it's because I don't post as much in it, so I'm not like seeking validation from Instagram or from TikTok as much. Oh my god, I nearly got sick. You're not comparing yourself to anyone. So they did a study, what video did I watch this morning? It was about basically how women will never be secure in their own skin because the beauty standard is always ever changing. And obviously at the moment it's like Eurocentric, trying to emulate like black features from women. It's like a total appropriation of their culture. What has that got to do with anything? Oh yeah, they did a case study on these women in Fiji who found that in their culture it was much more attractive the curvier a woman was, and the more that it would be a compliment to eat more. But then when the television was introduced, I think in the, was it the 90s? I could be getting this completely wrong. I'm very bad with dates. When television was introduced, they had never ever had one account of an eating disorder in Fiji, and then as soon as the television was introduced, eating disorders started to become a thing. I think the more you take yourself away from any sort of mode of media where you could be in contact with comparing yourself to another woman's body. This is from a woman's perspective, sorry, but like just in general, like any sort, whatever gender you are, you could be comparing yourself to anyone. So the more you take yourself away from any outlets where you could be comparing yourself is really beneficial to get to know yourself and accepting who you are. Spend a lot of time, I mean, like mindfully eating. It might seem mundane and useless to do all these things, but trust me, like the most life-changing revelations will come during these times when you're literally doing nothing. You get the best thoughts ever, you find out so much about yourself, you're able to observe your thoughts. It's like being in little snippets of meditative states during the day without actually just like putting in the effort and sitting down saying, I'm going to meditate now. Like it just happens by accident. So I think that's how I was finding out a lot about myself and learning a lot about myself and being more secure and knowing who I am. No comparisons, no distractions. Yeah, being mindful and everything that you do. What to do if you've been ghosted. Did I answer this already with the first question, sort of? I think I've said this before as well. I think in certain situations it is appropriate and you're fully within your right to ghost someone if you haven't set a boundary with that person. Like for example, if you've been texting for like a week, you've never met them. Personally, I have ghosted people before, so I understand where you'd want to avoid confrontation in that sense. Maybe I am just a bad person. If the person's being inappropriate, but I think if you've exchanged bodily fluids, they do deserve the right for an explanation as to why you don't want to be with them anymore or why you don't want to be in contact with them. But other than that, I think it's a sign. Like it's a sign. In my ghosting days, I wasn't ready to be in a relationship. So it was a blessing in disguise for that person, be able to give them whatever they needed from me, or like be in a stable situation. So that's from the perspective of someone who does ghost. No, did ghost. Past tense, did ghost. I don't think I'd do it anymore. I only fancy people that are out of my league. What the fuck do I do? I didn't like the wording of this. No one is out of your league. Stop putting people on a pedestal. Everyone is beautiful in their own way, on the inside and outside. I find that anyone that I found too attractive for me, too hot for me, out of my league, then eventually after time, through other people, I find out more about them and I realise they're actually a fucking shit person. It's just in that moment in time, whether you've been rejected or not, and you're probably, if you don't know them that well, you're romanticising them in your head. They're actually not that great. They're not as great as you think they are. Every other human is fucked up in their own beautiful way. You take people off a pedestal, because if you do have that mindset going into any sort of relationship, that is going to be the energy that you're giving off to people. You're going to give them the right to feel like they're better than you. And then there's a power disparity in the relationship from the get-go. If you have that mindset in every relationship, it's not going to work out. You should never think that someone is like out of your league, too good for you or too bad for you. That just means that you're probably not ready for a relationship at all if you have that mindset. Take the advice that I've said earlier in the video. Spend time on your own. It's a very internalized experience where I can't actually give you the tools in not having that thought process. It's all like very personalized, so you're going to have to go through your own revelation and epiphanies and figure this out for yourself. I wish you the best in your self-growth journey. I'm stuck in a boy I know is bad for me / doesn't want me back. Again, that's just your ego chasing, or you want a challenge. You're giving yourself a challenge. It's like you totally just your ego chasing the person. How to not feel like a complete burden in a relationship. Spend more time on your own. If you feel like you're maybe trauma dumping on the person or expecting them to fix all your issues for you, that is a toxic trait in a relationship and you should be aware of that. So spend a lot of time on your own, journaling, maybe talking to someone else, like a parent, getting a therapist. I know it's very inaccessible it's elitist to be like, just go to therapy. Obviously it's very inaccessible to people. But yeah, I'm a huge advocate for journaling, shadow work. I would watch my shadow work video. I'm actually a life coach. Actually, do you know what? Just watch all my videos and then automatically you're just a way better person. Things to do that help the person you're in love with when they're depressed. I loved this question. What I would do is communicate what the other person wants and don't maybe force your ideals onto them. So maybe if your love language is quality time and physical touch, and theirs is maybe acts of service and words of affirmation, make sure that you know what their love language is and ask them what they need from you when they are depressed, when they're not depressed, so that you know what to do when the time comes, so you're not like hounding them as to what to do, because sometimes they might need a little bit of time and they can't deal if someone else is like clawing at them and clawing for an answer. Give them a breather and find out what they need from you, and that you meet that for them, but you're not overdoing it, because sometimes it can put a lot of pressure on the person if they're depressed. Yeah, so I would say communicate and ask them what they need, because it is very different depending on the person and how people deal with depressive states. How to keep long distance relationships exciting. Is it bad advice to say send nudes? I think I have underage viewers. Don't do that. Girls, I don't know. If I was in a long distance relationship and I was going to meet the person, what I would love from them if they had, say, like 3 days off work and we could spend total quality time together for the first day, maybe just stay in bed all day one of the days, go on a date and an outing the second day, and then go out with friends the third day. What I hated when I was in a long distance relationship, if it's like I got off the bus and we'd have to be, and I liked their friends, but it was just the point where I wanted to be alone with them, and it was just like constantly in a big social situation, and I'd be so pissed. Again, shit of communication, and I just keep that to myself and I'd just be annoyed for the rest of the time. So make sure you communicate to the person what they'd like to do before they come down. Personally, I'd like a variation of different types of days, where it's like in bed for the first day, second day going on an outing or a date, and then the third day going out with their friends. But yeah, I think how to keep long distance exciting is to try actually not text them a lot, so you can save up the things that you want to talk to them about when you meet them. I've learned this a lot from my sister Ellie, is that you don't need to be in constant contact with everyone that's in your life. They're not going to go anywhere. It should be a good testament to the security of your friendship as well, if that you can go a prolonged period without talking to them and you're still right back to the beginning of where you were. You don't need to be like constantly speaking to having shitty conversations, having shitty small talk, and literally having nothing to talk about. I would prefer to just like not talk to them, maybe call them every 2 days, tell them obviously if you have like exciting information, but then it seems more and more exciting when you build up the time of when you have to see them. Should I send my ex a message apologising for things? We were both in the wrong. It's been a year. I've been partial to this myself. I tend to have, obviously when I'm doing shadow work, I tend to have realisations of when I was a cunt. That's a horrible word actually. Of when I was a very bad person, and then I want to apologise. But you have to realise in your head, sometimes with an ex especially, you might just want to be apologising because you want to talk to them and you want an excuse to talk to them. And then on the other end of the spectrum is like you feel genuine guilt and shame. So you need to ask yourself the question before you do want to send them a message, and you do think it's crucial that they have it, because it might give them peace of mind. I personally would love an apology. I would love an apology from someone, and I asked myself the question before I sent my apology. Like, this was fucking 4 months after the breakup, because I went on a fucking rampage. Anyway, my big apology, I asked myself the question, how would I feel if I get no response? Would I still want to send the message? And the answer was yes, and I sent it. It was a huge relief for me. I wasn't carrying around the shame or guilt, but also I have the peace of mind knowing that they know that I am sorry for how I behaved. Yeah, I'm still waiting on my one. But you know what, it's fine. Maybe they haven't addressed any of their faults, and that's fine. We're on different journeys. Just saying. Someone said, how do you manifest someone to break up with you? But like, the way it's written is so funny. This is horrible. I would think about if you were in their shoes. Imagine being in a relationship with someone and they secretly want you to break up with them, and you're only staying with them because you feel bad. Oh my god, that's my worst fear. That's literally my worst fear. I'm pretty sure that's what my last relationship was literally like. Like, he was only with me because he felt bad for me. No, break up with them. Don't be, you're being a fucking, no. I really don't back this. I don't approve of this message. Break up with them yourself. Grow some tits and break up with them yourself. Feeling a relationship is stagnant / bit boring but not wanting to break up. Spend time apart. Maybe you were expecting me to be like, change it up in the bedroom, go on a few dates. Don't talk to each other for a few weeks. see what happens. There you go. Managing mental health but also loving the set. The set is intrinsically self-destructive. I cannot stress this enough, and I did it myself, so I'm not, it's not coming from a judgmental perspective, because I completely can empathize of where kind of standpoint you are at your life. But it's so frustrating, especially if you're, this is from my own experience. I'm not talking an experience of like my friends coming to me for help, but it was so frustrating, and I know how frustrating it was for my family and friends for me to be going to me like, I'm sad, and then going on a fucking 3-day bender. But obviously, because when you're feeling down, you want to perpetuate your self-destructive behaviors because you don't feel like you deserve happiness, and you don't deserve peace, and you don't deserve stability, but you absolutely do. And maybe sometimes you need a bit of tough love. I would have loved, well, actually no, Aisling did tell me to calm down a few times. Yeah, I'm very lucky I have really good friends, and Reese as well was literally like, just stop drinking. Maybe you take offense to that because you're like, duh, it's a real like obvious answer. Maybe if you don't have anyone telling you this, and if you don't have a friend to tell you, it's coming from my personal experience, stop. Give yourself a goal, maybe a month. Don't do it for yourself, because sometimes if you try to make a point to yourself, it's harder to stick to it. As toxic as that sounds, everything is stemmed in revenge for me. I took 2 months off alcohol, and then I've drank 3 times since then, but it hasn't been like a self-destructive way where I don't know my limit or my boundaries. I haven't been binge drinking. I have such a fear of the deterioration of my brain, because one of my very big insecurities is that I'm never intelligent enough. But see, the thing is with intelligence is that you can actually give yourself more knowledge by putting it into practice and reading and like actually learning about things. It's not like an external insecurity where you're stuck with the way you look and stuff like that. I have a genuine insecurity about my head. I'm like, people perceive me as dumb and like shallow and all these things. But see, the thing about that is you can genuinely just change it. Where was I going with this? So the thing is, if you take a big break, you'll know your limit then after, and then you won't have such shame surrounding alcohol and maybe drugs or whatever you're doing when you're on the set. All nights out are literally the same. They're all the same. And then the next one, totally opposite to the last question. I've given up drinking for 2 months but scared to start dating sober. Will boys judge? I can't speak on behalf of the whole male species. I'm pretty sexy and cool, and I have dated someone who was sober, never had a drink in their life, so I find it actually even more respectable or more admirable. So maybe, yeah, I found that actually attractive. So I don't think so. Speaking on my own experience, I think it's hot. How to stop being in love with your best friend. I was talking to Ellie about this the other day because I thought I was in love with one of my best friends, and she explained it to me very concisely. It's to do with the whole like fantasizing about someone that you can't necessarily be with, and it also is perpetuated by the loneliness and knowing that you can't date anyone right now, and you're not like fulfilled with other parts of your life, normal speaking terms, that you could be able to be you're doing to fill your time. You're not doing all of those things anymore, so maybe you're thinking more about romantic relationships and comparing yourself to other people who are in lockdown with their boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever else. But I took that on board, and I was like, okay, maybe I am just fantasizing about them because I'm lonely. Maybe that is what it is. But then I realized, I was like, I don't even want to be in a relationship with them. I'm actually just happy being in love with them and them not knowing, and still being them in their life, because there's no risk factor there. There's no like, if we break up we will never be able to speak again. I'm just happy being in love with them from afar, because well, I live in a different country anyway, so it's not even, so I don't see this as like a negative thing. Maybe the person's in a relationship and that could be hard. So to answer your question, I don't see an issue with being in love with your best friend. I actually kind of like it. I think it invigorates my life, gives me a bit of excitement, a bit of a numb feeling of unrequited love. I think that's actually healthy for you. I think it's healthy for your ego. Yeah. Oh, how to not be hard on yourself or jealous when you aren't as successful as other people your age. I think it was just in lockdown though. I was getting like real jealous of other people, maybe just jealous of my past self. I was like, why aren't I doing as well as I usually am? And then I was like getting real jealous of other YouTubers. I was like, oh my god, no one likes me anymore. Because obviously my whole career is based off my likability factor, and you know, that's putting you in a very awkward position where your security is very precarious, or your self-esteem is very precarious. I found that from talking to other people about it, it really like the weight lifted off my shoulders, because what you'll find is even people with fucking millions of subscribers also feel the same, where they aren't as successful as other people and they're always comparing themselves, and it's a complete waste of time. I thought it was maybe motivating me to do better, but it was actually just stressing me out. It was literally just putting more pressure on me. I wasn't as natural doing what I like doing, which is literally just talking to a camera, trying to contrive this kind of curated person where I was more entertaining and all these other things. And then I found that I was losing sense of self and also hating who I was because I wasn't being true to myself or authentic. And I think other people can feed that or feel that off videos too. I find it as well, if you're watching someone and you know that they have maybe taken that joke from someone else, or they wouldn't actually say that in a normal social situation, and you're just like, oh, this feels really contrived and fabricated. I don't have a practical solution. I don't know where I was going with this, but just know that every single person that you're comparing yourself to also feels the same as you, and it's a complete waste of time. And I think that your biggest motivator is yourself. Now I'm just more focusing on like, I want to be more successful than I was yesterday, rather than I want to be more successful than the person I went to fucking school with in 2014. And that's been a lot more beneficial because I'm not stressing myself out, and you're comparing yourself to yourself. It's not that harmful either. And it's not unrealistic. It's like giving yourself realistic goals and standards. You're being your own driving force of motivation. How to keep someone interested. You know the way people always think, oh, it's always the people I don't like that like me back. That's because you're not investing as much time into them as you would to someone that you are interested in. Because people do like a bit of mystery. It's psychologically proven that people do like a bit of a chase. It's not necessarily like playing games or anything, but don't be so open with yourself to someone that you aren't in a secure relationship with. I mean, someone that you've just started talking to. Keep a bit of mystery and don't invest all your time into them. Don't have the mindset that you're constantly scared that if you say something wrong, they're gonna leave you or something's gonna happen. This person isn't gonna be a crutch for your happiness. It's not gonna benefit your life in any way, and it's not going to, what's that word? It's not going to enhance your life anyway. It's just a nice thing, a nice contribution to your life. Not necessarily have a really big effect on it, but just keeping the realistic expectation that another human in your life, like a romantic partner, is not something that you can't get from anyone else, like your friendships or yourself. It's not the be all end all if they leave, and it's not the be all end all if they stay. Like nothing, no huge change is going to come from it. So if you have that mindset, don't be investing so much time into someone else if they're not giving it, if they're not reciprocating that for you. Definitely don't be doing that. Don't be going above and beyond, because I know that sometimes if especially mine, I don't know if it's well, my Venus is in Scorpio, and I don't know if it's a Libra thing either, but I'm always like, if I'm really nice to this person and invest loads of my time and energy into them, they're gonna be forced to love me. That is not how the human psyche works. Treat them as a normal friend. Don't be treat them as a normal human. Stop putting people on pedestals. Just because you're attracted to someone doesn't mean that they're a god. And ask yourself as well, stop being so consumed by if the other person likes you, and start asking yourself if you actually like them. It's helped me so much, and I've stopped overthinking and like reevaluating every single thing I've said in social situations. And I've come to realize that a lot of people that I've like crushed on in the past, I don't even like them as people. It was just the fantasy that I'd made up in my head. How to stop comparing yourself to your ex's new gal. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I don't know if your ex has like a type. My exes have types where like all the new girlfriends are like the same but in different fonts, if you know what I mean. So it's hard not to compare yourself. There's going to be some things that you were able to give the person that they can't give them. Just because they love their new girlfriend, it doesn't mean that they love them more than they loved you. It's just a different type of love. So I think once you accept that, it's much easier to stop comparing yourself, because as much as like maybe you dress the same, maybe look the same, have the same interests, you're completely different people. They're gonna love them differently. Maybe their love language, they're gonna have sex with them differently, they're gonna taste differently, they kiss differently. Don't be comparing yourself, because they still probably love you, but they just love you in a different way. It's not necessarily that they love the other person more.
Thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video and most of the videos that I upload. If you're not aware what Skillshare is, it's an online learning community with thousands of classes from experts on literally any topic that you can think of. Currently, I've been using it to do some yoga classes, because I find that sometimes it's hard to try find the right yoga class for you, but this like literally has it any type of yoga that you can think of. But it also touches on topics from a huge range, like music, business. You can even learn how to do your taxes. You can learn how to do filmmaking. You can do classes on creative writing. So yeah, anything you can think of. And I have a link in my description if you want a trial of premium Skillshare membership. I think the first 1,000 people to click the link get it. So yeah. And I think after that, it's really affordable. It's less than $10 a month for an annual subscription. So yeah, thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. And let me know if you do any of the classes, or if you have any classes that you'd like to rent, leave them in the comments. Thanks!